So, have you ever actually thought about the hidden, honestly almost magical power resting right there in your hands every time you pick up a controller or roll a handful of dice? We're constantly told it's just a way to kill time. But the truth? The truth is actually far more profound than that.
And that brings us to a really massive question. It's one you've probably debated a million times with your parents, maybe your partner, or let's be real, just internally with yourself. Is gaming actually good for you? We've all heard the dire warnings for sure, but what is literally happening inside our brains when we play?
I mean, we constantly see this really stark, frankly frightening reality portrayed in the media, right? Quotes warning about sleep deprivation, isolation, bankruptcy, and even death. These are the extreme, worst-case side effects that have completely fueled the stigma around this hobby for decades now. But today, we are going to look past all that fear-mongering. We're going to dive into the actual, hard science to uncover the reality.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the science of play, then move into boosting brain power, healing through video games, the board game universe, and finally, we'll wrap up with the future of gaming. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with Section 1, the science of play.
Okay, look at this number for a second. 10,000. By the time they hit age 21, the average young person racks up 10,000 hours playing video games. 10,000! To put that into perspective, that is only slightly less than the total amount of time they spend in secondary school. Just think about that massive, massive volume of cognitive engagement going on. And if we look at the UK as a sample size, out of a population of roughly 66 million people, 32 million are gamers. That is literally nearly half the population, pushing buttons, strategizing, and exploring virtual worlds. So clearly, this isn't just some fringe niche hobby anymore. It's a massive, shared cultural framework.
Which leads us to Section 2, boosting brain power. Now, have you ever heard of the Stroop test? It was actually invented way back in 1935, and it measures your selective attention by asking you to read out the color a word is printed in rather than the word itself. Sounds easy, but it is incredibly confusing for the average brain. But get this, research by Dr. Daphne Bavelier over at the University of Rochester proves that action gamers absolutely excel at this test. And why is that? Well, because they get thousands of hours of practice resolving visual mismatches under intense pressure. Think about it. If an action gamer loses focus for even a split second and misses a grenade being thrown at them, their character dies. They are highly trained to filter out distractions and lock right onto vital information.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that digital action leads to actual biological reality. Playing video games has physically been shown to increase the size and efficiency of the right hippocampus. That's the region of the brain that's thought to help us navigate the physical world around us. And it's not just brain size either. The evidence shows that consistent gaming can actively improve your eyesight, your motor skills, and your hand-eye coordination. Pretty wild, right?
Moving on to Section 3, healing through video games.
When the real world feels dangerously unpredictable, games can actually calm our anxiety by providing really clear rules and predictable outcomes. For folks battling depression, a massive review published in Frontiers in Psychiatry found that structured gaming sessions resulted in a 55 to 70% measurable reduction in depressive symptoms. 55 to 70%. It literally gives players a way to build emotional momentum and a sense of achievement. For trauma survivors, it acts as this critical grounding tool, providing a safe space where they have total agency and control. And according to a recent Oxford study, just 15 minutes of gameplay can make a real, measurable difference in lowering daily stress.
And this brings us to an absolute monumental milestone in modern medicine. It's called EndeavorRx. This is actually the very first video game to be officially approved in the US as a formal medical treatment. Seriously, it was specifically designed to help children with ADHD. Because ADHD brains naturally crave clear goals, rapid pacing, and instant feedback, this game provides exactly that. During clinical trials, roughly 68% of kids showed real measurable improvement in their attention spans after just 4 weeks of short, daily play. We are literally prescribing video games to heal and train the mind now.
All right, let's pivot a bit for Section 4, the board game universe.
Because, our human need for structured play is ancient, like really ancient. We actually have records of a game called Senet being played in ancient Egypt way back in 3500 BC. Then in the 16th century, Pachisi was created in India. Fun fact, a variation of that, Snakes and Ladders, was originally used to teach children morality lessons about vices and virtues. Fast forward to the 1930s with cognitive tools like the Stroop test we just talked about, right up to the 2020s, where we're seeing the rise of VR therapy and these incredibly complex multi-session legacy board games. We have literally always used mechanics on a board to make sense of our world.
And here is the fascinating part. These analog mechanics have become incredibly sophisticated today. Take the engine builder mechanic, for example. This is where players strategically optimize combinations of actions or resources that sort of cascade and grow over time. It is such a brilliant, safe framework for complex problem solving. Whether it's engine building or maybe social deduction games where you have to logically figure out who is secretly sabotaging the whole group, board games force us to interact, to strategize, and to learn, all in a highly structured, low-stakes environment. Now, historically, hardcore board gamers have debated between two distinct styles. You've got Euro games, which traditionally focus on deep strategy, resource management, and very low direct conflict. Think of games like Catan. Versus what is playfully, though maybe a bit unfairly, called Ameritrash. And that style focuses heavily on theme, narrative, characters, and a lot of dice-rolling randomness. But the truth is, modern gaming is rapidly moving way past these old labels. The best new games out there seamlessly blend the deep, logical strategy of Euro mechanics with the immersive storytelling of American styles. It just proves that players really crave both rigorous mental challenges and rich, engaging narratives at the same time.
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 5, the future of gaming.
Check out this incredibly powerful statistic, 60%. A genuinely groundbreaking 2025 follow-up study from the Oxford Internet Institute found that over 60% of people would be more open to seeking mental health help if the therapy involved familiar, game-based environments. I mean, that is a staggering number, and it completely shifts the entire paradigm of how we view treatment.
So how is this integration actually happening out there today? Well, therapists are no longer just forcing vulnerable patients into intimidating clinical white rooms. Instead, they're using narrative games to prompt emotional reflection without the stress of direct confrontation. They are implementing virtual reality for precisely controlled trauma exposure, which allows the patient to totally set their own pace. And they're utilizing cooperative gameplay to build trust side by side, totally removing the intense, awkward pressure of forced eye contact. They are literally meeting patients inside the virtual worlds where they already feel safe and capable.
And this leads us to one final deeply provocative question to leave you with. If gaming is already the place where millions of people naturally go to feel the safest, the most grounded, and the most in control of their environment, well, isn't meeting them in that space the absolute ultimate next step in human healing? Thank you so much for exploring the science and the real heart of gaming with me today. Keep playing, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.